Joe Marler said what, JB?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Hello,
10.
EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously, and as we've just demonstrated, is capable of counting to 10.
I can't believe you did that. I was just doing a mic check like you told me to.
Congratulations, JB.
Oh, thanks, mate.
What did you get at GCSE Maths?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Good. Excellent. Right, this is the EggChasers Rugby Podcast. We're here for a brand new year and a brand new week. We're here 52 weeks of the year, every Monday morning, except this one when we're here on a Tuesday morning because of the bank holiday. And Phil had a rock and roll trip to Anglesey.
Party Central.
Yeah, exactly. And JB had a rock and roll trip to Gloucester.
I did. It's absolutely superb. Loved it.
Cheltenham. All the Gloucester players live in Cheltenham.
Yeah, so, yes, I went to... This is a hell of a New Year's Eve, but started with a session in Cheltenham CrossFit, which is a cool little box. Then had a touch of breakfast. Me and my brother-in-law got a train over to Gloucester, bumped into Jamal Ford Robinson, who is our host for the day. 8 in the Gloucester corporate, which is absolutely awesome. The food there is absolutely superb. Watched a game with Ed Slater and Freddie Clark, which was cool. And Gloucester got the win. So I've been to Kingston twice, and they've won twice. So there's a lesson there.
I want to hear more about that. But bearing in mind how much you love Freddie Clark,
Yeah.
that must have been exciting.
It was a bit heartbreaking, actually, because someone introduced me to Freddie Clark. He goes, "Oh, right, you do a podcast. Is that the one that slates me all the time?" I was like, "No, I'm a massive fan. I'm a huge fan." So, yeah.
At which point he backed off even more.
Yeah, even more. Terrified.
And you spent it with friend of the pod and regular Phil stand-in Ed Slater.
Yes, I did. And we
Brilliant.
nosed about 6-man lineouts for the entire set. Yeah, it was a fascinating chat. And I think I can disclose most things which were said. It was very, very good, though. It was a proper nose fest.
Right, looking forward to getting into that then. We've got a bunch of rugby to actually discuss that's happened, and we'll get into some news and stuff. But let me just remind you that we are wherever you get your podcasts, and one way you can show your appreciation is if you haven't already, we hope we'll earn your subscription on this podcast. Go and hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And for more content, we will be doing a Patreon podcast, patreon.com/EggChasers. Phil, any news since we only spoke a few days ago?
Yeah.
And since then, it's just been loads of games, so I don't think there's been anything.
We found out the Marler ban.
The Marler ban, yeah. And the Marler backlash, more to the point.
Oh, there is some news that just coming out. I first read it this evening as well, which was Proudfoot has gone.
Hodgson's gone.
Yeah.
Proudfoot, the
England's
scrum coach.
South Africa assistant or South Africa scrum coach for the World Cup successfully, was intended to be the England scrum coach for the World Cup, although his tenure is probably unsuccessful up to this point.
Yeah, and basically Franz Matt. Well, I know because I'm sure Matt Proudfoot is excellent, but it sort of there's one element where you go Franz Malherbe earned Matt Proudfoot a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He owes Malherbe a few beers.
Yeah. Can you boys push? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, you're going to look like a great scrum coach with the best will in the world. I'm sure Matt Proudfoot. I actually like Matt Proudfoot. I spent about half of rugby chatting to him about all sorts of things. He loves his rugby. So I've got to say, him as an individual, as a rugby man, absolutely brilliant. I just do question, if you've got a bunch of weak props, how much can you improve a bunch of weak props? And I'm not saying England have got weak props. I'm not saying that. But maybe they're not as strong as the French props or some of the others or the South Africans. It seems to me like one of those things. It's almost like coaching the Fiji Sevens team. They're either going to be good or they're going to be bad. Which is it?
Yeah, what would be the hierarchy of
easy jobs?
Easiest gigs in World Rugby? And South Africa scrum coach would be up there.
Yeah, so I've got a list of these. So obviously South Africa scrum coach was one, Fiji Sevens team, All Blacks coach.
All Blacks coach is easy.
How is that difficult? You can only mess that up, can't you, with your philosophies and whatever else.
Crusaders coach.
Crusaders coach, another really easy one.
Todd Blackadder managed something like 7 years without winning a trophy.
That's incredible, isn't it?
It does.
I mean, that's so impressive.
Leinster coach.
Leinster coach is
Leinster coach, yeah.
Although Stu has done a great job.
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
what
he
happens
has done
with-
a great job, but
he'll get to show it in the top 14 when he's
He
got
will.
massive competition.
And Racing are sliding at the moment. They won 1 out of 5 games in December, including getting hammered by Stad.
are we allowed to say
really?
that's because?
Yeah.
We allowed to say that's because Stuart Lancaster is on the phone to them every day. Is that correlation causation?
Because he's not on the phone to them yet.
No, he is every day. He says he's on the phone to them every day.
Really?
Yeah,
to,
every
to
day.
Racing?
Yeah.
He's having a conflict of...
Exactly right. Well, that has been raised before because
That
he's saying
seems
he's talking
crazy.
to them, but he's also working at Leinster.
Well, it depends what the conversations are.
Everything is around recruitment.
Yeah, well, exactly. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
But, I mean,
future planning. But if he's actively doing coaching or influencing decision making now, that is an issue.
Well, he is active. Well,
As in,
define
like-
decision making.
As in team selection, training methods, right at this moment in time.
That would be nuts.
That would be crazy.
But also just the conversation of saying, hey, what do you think of your back row? Where are they strong? Where are they weak? What do we need to improve here? Oh, right, you're not very good at jackling. And then just jotting down this stuff for the quarterfinals.
Presumably he will be... he'll be watching game tape to work that out himself.
Yeah, but you only know once you know, don't you, once you're inside camp. It is hard to find these things out.
So Matt Proudfoot's gone. Any word on a replacement or if there'll be one?
Dan Cole is replacing him.
Did you see where the announcement came from?
No.
So it was announced not by England, but Stellenbosch University announced their new consultant head coach, which was Matt Proudfoot. That's where the announcement came from.
Wow.
That's a nice job.
Yeah,
That's nice job.
For the Currie Cup run. Nice part of the world, Stellenbosch, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
Absolutely.
You've been?
Wine regions.
It's
you're
one of those
Never been to South Africa.
not far from Cape Town. You're
Go
on the
now
border
before-
of the wine region.
Go now before South Africa burns itself down.
Yeah.
But you go there, it is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
And an amazing temperate climate. Can never drops below 20 degrees. Never really gets much above 30 degrees. It's like in the sweet spot all year round.
Did you like the wine?
The wines I had. So I didn't actually go to Stellenbosch. We went
Did
to
you?
Franschhoek. We went to Roberts. We went to several different places.
Sorry, I think I went to Franschhoek.
Franschhoek
Is
was...
that the one with the little train?
Yeah, yes. There's like a little...
Franschhoek I went to.
Franschhoek's gorgeous.
Yeah, Franschhoek. Stellenbosch is nice. Franschhoek is the absolute balls. Did you enjoy the wine?
Most of it, yes.
You know, a bit bored of those thin reds.
I don't really drink reds.
Yeah.
So the Pinotage, it's not really for me. It's too bland.
It is bland, isn't it?
But I'm a white man anyway. I tell you, we went to a place called Graham Beck, which is a
If
sparkling.
JB had just said that, someone on Twitter would have taken that little clip out of
Exactly.
context and cancelled him with it.
Exactly. Even more cancelled.
Yeah.
The Graham Beck was you occasionally get a bottle over here, but like a really good sparkling white wine from that region, and their wine tour was excellent as well. Very very good fun.
Oh, I love it.
Reminiscing from a few years ago.
The culture on this podcast. So that's Matt Proudfoot. Any other news apart from Marla?
Well, I mean, the news, of course, is not what Marla did. We all know what Marla did now.
Yeah, but we can get on to Marla. But anything else aside from that?
Nothing big that I've seen.
So So what are you saying with Marla, JB? What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking. I'm sure there is more news. I'm sure there is some more news.
It has only been.
I mean, just Newcastle Signing an Argentine second row. That's not really huge news, is it?
No.
I do feel there's something we're missing. Anyway, yeah. So what am I saying about Marla?
Split of opinion. I think there has been split opinions on this. Some people thinking it was a bit over the top, citing him, and that stuff happens on a rugby field. I think a lot of people going, "Oh, that was just really clumsy." And Marla, you got form, so probably gonna have to pay the price a little bit.
Yeah. So I remember somebody else getting a fine or something, or a ban, and I came to the conclusion that a suspended sentence would be better because I couldn't be sure about the intent. So I actually like the suspended sentence for Marla, which is
two weeks, but it could have been reduced from 6.
Yeah, 6 week
Yeah.
ban or sentence reduced to 2.
Yeah.
With 4 of them suspended.
And I don't like the ban full stop actually, but if you're going to issue something like that, make it suspended because I can see why. There's no evidence here that he knew
the situation with Jake Keenan's mother.
Now, he does say this a lot, and I've got a story for you. Not only does he say it a lot, he says it in Spanish.
He says what a lot? He says
your mother's a whore in Spanish. He knows the translation. He knows the translation for when he plays against Argentines. I've had this confirmed. So the man's into detail, and I like that. But
from the horse's mouth. Is this
from the horse's mouth? I've met the props and I've met the pack that have seen it in action. But they're like, well, this is just what people do, isn't it? It's just a thing, and nobody actually thinks he means that. No, nobody thinks he means that. He's just trying to get underneath your skin.
Yeah.
And what I don't like about this is the punishment has been dictated by how offended the recipient is, and this shouldn't be a thing, really, because you could you could be as hysterical as you like. It's a very modern mindset to lose your temper completely, say, oh, you can't say those words because they're so offensive. I can see there being a scenario where a set of words are so hurtful and so offensive because of the amount of research someone has done into that subject. In this case, no, I'm sorry, it's just not.
But so you spoke about preparation there in terms of learning the phrase, or perhaps multiple phrases, in Spanish.
Yeah.
Do you think there was preparation? So why did he target Heenan? Do you think there was preparation that he knew that his mother was ill?
No, I don't think anybody thinks that. No,
for the life of me, I don't think he'd do that.
I don't know, but the preparation is an interesting element.
Well, I mean, he just knows that someone speaks Spanish and he wants to. I think that's.
He knows that phrase.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to trash talking, which is what this is, the idea is to get underneath someone's skin. Mm-hmm. This would never get underneath my skin because it's not true.
Yeah. It's
ridiculous. Not true. Now, I trash talk quite a lot when I play, but I'm never rude, and that actually makes it worse. I'm always very, you should have pushed harder there, or maybe have you thought about doing this with your technique, or very annoying kind of little jibes. Now that could make someone lose in fact, it's got me punched several times. What's the problem? Is it just because it offends certain people's sensibilities?
Well, there's that Stephen Fry quote, which I just suddenly got. It's now very common for people to hear people say, "I'm rather offended by that," as if that gives them certain rights. It's actually nothing more than a whine. I find that offensive. It has no meaning, no purpose, no reason to be respected as a phrase. I'm offended by that. Well, so effing what?
Yeah, I mean,
now
you can't.
It got caught on a ref mic, and there was a reaction. And I think once the reactions happened, once it becomes a thing, which Jake Heenan then drew attention to. Then the RFU are in a very difficult position, because in every clubhouse, and I coach under 15s team, and you go to a club, and you both play in the Sedgley Park, and in the club in the foyer of every single club is that teamwork, respect, discipline.
Yeah, no,
all those
we need to
values.
bin this. We need to throw it in the bin, because the judge on the panel had this absolute diatribe. There's no other word for it. Like the values of rugby are not something we mouth, but we sign up to, and we must take them seriously. No, I never signed up to them. I just want to play rugby, and it's one of those things that if you have to talk about the values over and over again, they don't exist. And I think by doing this, he's just made himself look stupid. He's made the game look stupid, and it looks pompous, it looks petty, it looks high-minded, and it doesn't do anything for rugby as a sport. If we continue to lecture each other about what great people we are and what great people this sport produces, but it'll have the opposite effect, the complete opposite effect.
Well, but would you extend that to a player diving and getting someone sent off? Because that would be in the same thing. That would be contrary to the sportsmanship values. That
I think if someone's diving or simulation or whatever you want to call it now, just call them. But we don't need to hear the high-minded speech, because this sort of thing on a rugby field happens all the time. So I'm thinking of another example, and I actually think a more serious example would be Denny Solomona calling Jamie Shilcock a gay slur. Now, maybe that should be prosecuted. Yes, I think it probably should, actually. And there was an argument to sort of...
Prosecuted by the RFU?
Yes, by the RFU.
Yeah.
That's not really acceptable. But across the sport, people are trying on with each other all of the time to try and get a bit of one-upmanship, to try and distract people, to try and, just all this stuff.
And for the most part, that happens. People get away with it. People accept it. It's the Joe Marler chose the wrong person at the wrong time, and that made it something which peeled back the curtain and revealed to people that this happens. Now, you play and you know it happens. Yeah. I play and I know it happens. Mm-hmm. Phil's played, he knows it happens. And 99.9% of the time, you know, the player on the receiving end smiles, laughs, thinks, I'm gonna wallop you the next chance I get.
Yes, exactly.
But it was just because it got brought into the public domain and that curtain was peeled back, there had to be a performative process that was gone through. What
is performative? That's exactly
what probably, and I think the people that piped up loudest in places like Twitter are people that don't or haven't really played.
No,
who don't have that understanding of what it's like out on the field. Not to say that it's right, wrong, or whatever. Just.
Well, here's a element of rugby values for you. Okay, so the fact that Heenan and Jan Thomas responded the way that they did with violence, you know, or physicality, is completely unacceptable, because the game, the entire premise of the game, particularly lower down the leagues, is discipline. You know, that is what rugby is about, first and foremost, is discipline. Now, if you're losing your temper because someone said nasty words, this game is going to be unplayable. So you've got to have a referee that is not only refereeing the sport and the laws of the sport, but also the words of the player. But I don't think it's acceptable in any way, shape or form to react to verbals with violence for the most part. There might be some very fringe circumstances, but this is what you're taught from a kid, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what you're also taught is to mind your language. No, you're not allowed to aim it at the referee, but technically, if a referee's within earshot, keep
it down.
Watch what you say. Yeah. And now Carl Dixon said he didn't hear what was said, despite standing.
Well, I mean, he could be looking
right next to Joe Marler, but that by the by. Had Carl Dixon heard it, it would have been within his rights. And what would have been a great thing would be to go, Joe,
unacceptable.
You've crossed the line there. Yellow card. Go and take 10 minutes and call off. And I'm going to reverse the penalty to Quins for your reaction.
I do believe Carl Dixon, because like you and I can have a conversation now. Phil could be on the phone and we could zone out completely. He's got 1,000,001 things to worry about. Joe Marler's banter is not one of them.
Yeah, but that would have been the best thing for the game if it had been dealt with immediately there. As it wasn't, you are right. I think something had to be done. Although I think you make a fair point, Jay. Like, violence is never the answer. Like, no matter what someone says. So there could have been some warning. I don't think a ban or anything like that, but just some mention of the issue the other way.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do this. Literally, the first thing that you're told in rugby, at least the first thing that I was told. This is literally the first thing. Is like, if you retaliate, you're going to get penalised. You don't retaliate. So that's why I think the game's quite special, because you do get horrible things done to you on a regular basis, and occasionally it blows up. But if it blows up and you're seen to be the first guy to throw a punch, you go off. Yeah. So this is the game that we're playing with each other all the time. Is how far can we push someone in order, to hit us? Now, in a lot of times, it's not really worth it, because you're concentrating so much on winding them up, you're not concentrating on the game. So
it has to be said, we're in awe of rugby players, particularly at the elite level, where there's so much on the line professionally and for their team and all the rest of it. But we're constantly in awe of how they manage to control themselves.
Yeah,
because to have that level of physicality and confrontation and keep it simmered at an acceptable level for as much as they do is miraculous.
Incredible. Well, if you watch rugby now and you compare it to, say, 20 years ago, the number of fists thrown in any given game 20 years ago, and now you never... Incredibly rarely.
There's one in the Scarlets game, unbelievably.
Was there?
Yeah.
It is like once a season kind of thing.
Yeah.
That you'll see fists being thrown.
And that person will be dealt with. No,
fully.
I don't like the precedent that this says, which is, if you can delve back into your family history and find something which upsets you. I think it was Andrew Coombs on Twitter saying something along the lines of, someone said this to me and my mother died a few years ago. I mean, that's obviously very sad, but it's still no excuse. Unless someone's targeting you precisely for that thing, it's no excuse.
And picked at that particular scab.
And that's why I asked the question, because if you go in premeditated with it, I think that...
I found this out about him and
exactly.
I'm going to use that. Yeah, that's scumbag.
Exactly. Now, I'm not saying that's what has happened in this
And
instance.
clearly, if JB's sources, and there's no reason to disbelieve them, and JB won't reveal his sources, I'm sure, but if he's had from the horse's mouth that Argentinians have had the same...
similar phrasing
in Spanish, then it suggests that it's indiscriminate and not personal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very much that. There are a few other interesting angles. I mean, what do you think of Tobias Matson coming out and saying he might be scapegoated here? It might not be very fair.
I think it's more the performance that something has to be done. Therefore, we've got to do something.
It got picked up on the ref mic because it was the wrong person at the wrong moment.
Yeah.
It became a thing that it would never have been for if he'd done it. If he'd done it, Stephen Loatua would have just laughed it off. Wouldn't have mattered.
Well,
but then there's a legal principle on that, like the eggshell skull rule.
Yeah.
Where you take your victim as you treat. If you do something illegal, say you punch someone, you just intend to hurt them, but they've got an eggshell thin skull and they end up dying. You take them as you find them because you did an illegal act to them. You take the full force of the consequences.
Yeah.
Now, there is an element of that in here, but I actually think probably, other than the performative nature, it's probably been dealt with right.
Yeah.
A couple of game ban feels about right.
If it had taken
Back
away
Six Nations, the most important part.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it had taken away any possibility of him playing this in the Six Nations, that might have been heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Had they just not mentioned it and cracked on, then that might have felt a bit. That would have felt
say,
wrong.
these disciplinary panels, when you have, I'm not saying this is the case at all, but you could easily see it being the case. When you've got the RFU, who are the administration of the game, all games, but they also run the pro international team, and they also do the discipline. And then you add to that mix the fact that they are very, very sensitive about losing games, and it's commercially sensitive that they win things like the Six Nations. If you were a cynic, and I'm not a cynic or a conspiracy theorist, but if you were one of those two things, or maybe both
of them,
it doesn't really hurt the RFU that much, does it? You get your best loose head prop, you rest him for 2 weeks, but miraculously he'll be okay for the big ticket thing. If they were serious, they say, look, you can play your home games. You can play your club games for Harlequins because you just can. But to really teach you a lesson, we're going to ban you from England for 2 games, and then you can't get your match fee.
Because that's
a real.
Because to be fair, they cost. Well, no, not they. Dylan Hartley did it to himself, but they handed out a heavy ban when Dylan Hartley would have been playing for the Lions.
No problem. Not an issue.
I'm sure he missed a few.
I think he missed the World Cup as well.
I think he missed a few England games as well.
Yeah, in fairness.
Yeah. So anyway, it's nice to see the winner of all this is the RFU. Well done, boys.
On that, one thing Alex Anderson revealed in his press conference last week was that Steve Borthwick had just before he went into the press conference, he mentioned it in the press conference. He said, I've just missed a call from Steve Borthwick. I haven't had a chance to call him back. What do you think Steve Borthwick might have been calling Alex Anderson to ask about?
I think he knows Alex Anderson loves to talk in the press, and he thought, if Alex Anderson's going to go on TV in two minutes, I'm going to call him and then just one ring him, hang up, and I bet he mentions it.
I am certain it will be the fitness of his star fly half, Rob Dupree.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's either asking how close to a return is George Ford, or it's saying, now, did Rob Dupree get any caps for South Africa?
I don't think he did.
He did. He's got one.
Has he?
Has he?
Yeah.
Oh, gutted.
Is it a full cap? Oh,
it's a full cap.
Gutted.
Yeah. So,
has he got an English parent or grandparent?
No, not like Paddy Jackson. Paddy Jackson, next cab off the rank. Hear me now, believe me later. Anyway, I tell you who deserves a load of credit. Alex Anderson. A load of credit.
Absolute
hell of a
beatdown.
That was a hell of a game.
That was a statement performance.
And it was a hell of a game as well, because that first 15, 20 minutes, where Leicester have 4 kickable penalties, turn them all down, go for the corner 4 times, and get held out, and then the tide just turned.
Yeah, I was certain, absolutely certain that Sale were losing this game 10 minutes in.
Yeah, 100%. Leicester, it was inevitable. Leicester were going to win. They were going to keep turning the screw, keep forcing the pressure, get points on the board. It was going to be over. And Sale absorbed all of that and then just fought back like nothing else.
Why do you think... So I've got my own theory on how Sale turned this around. Why do you think that they were able to turn it around so effectively?
Interesting. I think there's probably an element of it that was just the swings of the game. Like a few things went Leicester's way that led to those penalties early on. And then probably it was... The other side of it, just remembering back to the game, Leicester lost half their team through injury, didn't they?
They did lose quite a few guys. Well, that's towards the second half.
They lost Cracknell early on, didn't they? They lost... Who else did they lose?
They lost Freddie Burns.
They lost Pollard, Burns, Watson. They ended up with Ogre playing in the centre, Portfleet playing 10.
Yeah.
And a lot of the points... So a lot of the points were scored in the second half. So 3 of Sale's 4 tries were the second half, weren't they?
Yeah.
So that ties in with those injuries.
So the reason I think it sort of went downhill for Leicester is because Sale were pretty smart about things. So in the early exchanges, there was so much kicking. And I'm thinking, you can't beat Leicester through tactical kicking. It's going to be a nightmare for you. I think that Leicester work on like a macro level, and I think they must do this a lot in training, which is deciding where they want to kick the ball, deciding when and how they want to play, determining where the battlefield's going to be, and then fighting that pitch battle there. That's what I think that they do. So as Sale are banging the ball back and they're getting into this kicking battle, Leicester are going to win that 9 times out of 10. But when Sale started running at them, started using their big carriers, kicking less, getting out of trouble, using big ball carriers, dominating the gain line, they were so much better, and that made a huge difference. Because I don't think Leicester deal with that well. Got a good defence, but nobody can put up with that for that amount of time. And when you're kicking the ball and having kick chases and letting Leicester organise and all that kind of thing, you're in for a long, hard afternoon, including Saracens. Including Saracens, which is basically how they lost the final.
So that was a hell of a performance by Sale.
Yes, it was.
It was a great result. It'd be interesting to see how many of those Leicester Tigers injuries are long term. I did. What was his name? Was it Janssen?
Sean Janssen.
Sean Janssen, who came on for Cracknell. Did he go off as well?
He was yellow carded.
Was he? So Visa obviously went off.
Yeah.
Went off. Visa's obviously injured, which is why Cracknell's playing. But Cracknell's then injured, so if you've got kind of 3 guys, or at least your first 2 number 8s missing, that can cause a few problems.
Yeah, they were very unlucky with injuries, Leicester. But the other part of that was Sale just absolutely panned them.
They did.
Absolutely panned them. They were dominant in most areas of the set piece. They were particularly dominant in the scrum, which I very much enjoyed. And they managed to stop Leicester's driving wall. I think 3 or 4 times in the opening 10 minutes.
There was four successful kicks to the corner, and they stopped all of them. Now, Johnny Hill was very good, very disrupted on
again, that's another guy who I did not think was a good signing. I thought he should have gone to France. I just couldn't see what he was going to offer.
But it depends how much money they've paid for him, doesn't it?
A lot.
Yeah.
An awful lot.
But
he does work. He works well, actually.
And he's a big body.
He's a
very big
man.
body.
Big strong boy, defo.
And he's more athletic than you think as well.
Yeah, the guy I think Sale need to move on from pretty rapidly is Manu Tuolangi.
Yeah,
need to
agreed.
find someone else. He's just not very good. He's just some nice touches.
But he's also used. He's used at 12. He's used in more of a blunt force way.
Yeah.
Which obviously he's a good blunt force guy, but I don't think he's effective. I've never seen him have a great game from 12, whereas all his best for Leicester and England was always 13.
That's very true.
Yeah. Is there anything else I wanted to mention about this? Gus Waugh is awesome. If Rob Dupree is the best fly half in the world, Gus Waugh is probably the best 9 in the world.
I'll tell you who I thought had a good game.
Down.
Luke James. I thought played.
Luke James at 15. Yeah.
He won you our FRD matchup this week, Phil. Pretty much single-handedly.
He's a free agent pickup midnight the night before, something like that.
30 points.
Luke James is a funny character, right? Because he's the guy who's so easily droppable. As soon as you've got a trendy piece in your team or a young up-and-coming guy, Luke James is always the one that gets binned off.
If you had a flat-out speedster or someone like that, he'd get dropped.
But every time they play him, he does so well. I love the guy. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's a natural rugby player. He might not be the fastest. He always seems to break the first tackle.
He made 150 metres and beat 10 defenders this week. So
there you go.
Show me someone playing this week who did more than that.
People thought that he wouldn't make it because he was a back row and they moved him to 12.
Was he a back row at one point?
Yeah, that's why he never really did anything in England under 20s. He's always in the wrong position.
Yeah.
They finally moved him.
Isn't he the same age as the Curry boys as well?
Yeah, he is.
How was he a back row?
Who knows?
Who was mismanaging? Oh, that was when Dimes was in charge, wasn't it?
Well, hang on. Dimes gave him his chance. I'll have you know.
By the way, I love how ferocious the Curry twins are and how softly spoken they are. Ben Curry is captain. Is wonderful. Sorry, sir. Yes, I take your point on the number of penalties we're conceding, but I would just point out they were all for different things. Sir.
Yes, I was going to say. I love that.
I did like that.
We the diversity of sale infringements. Look, sir, we broke all the laws. What? No, it was an awesome win, and actually, good crowd as well. 9,000 plus.
That is a good crowd.
Great crowd.
Really?
You don't think 9,000 plus is a good crowd?
No. Were there really 9,000 there?
There were really 9,000 there.
If that's true, that's great.
Do you want me to give you the exact number?
Yes.
Okay, this is from
Ultimate Rugby.
So this
that's
so this is Sale versus Richmond. 9,491.
Did you say Sale versus Richmond?
Yeah, it was a joke because it's Ultimate Rugby. Sale versus Worcester.
That's positive. That's right.
Have you seen the attendances across the league? I mean, obviously it's a big weekend, festive period, but Northampton was a sellout. Gloucester was almost a sellout. There was a lot of big attendances.
Well,
good.
That is good. I'm pleased about that. You mentioned Richmond, and I think game of the weekend. We've been talking about local derbies recently, but Richmond v London Scottish.
Oof,
share the same ground.
Do they? Didn't know that.
Mark Bright has switched allegiances from one to the other in recent years.
Well, he's gone to London Scottish.
He's at Richmond. He used to be in London Scottish.
Didn't know that.
And Richmond won. Very well coached pack.
Wow. London Scottish are kicking themselves now. What they could have had.
Yeah, absolutely.
What they ended up with. Unlucky boys.
Any other grassroots? Did you keep your eye on any other grassroots scores?
Nothing happened really. Nothing was going on.
Is that right?
So we're not back in action until this weekend. It's Widnes week for Tok H.
Oh, the big one.
Big one for us. Widnes aren't doing as well as they should be, in my opinion. They put up some big scores when they play the right sort of team. They don't seem to be the force that they were last year. But they beat us earlier on in the season, so we won't be taking them lightly.
Actually, there was a little tweet we got linked to. Someone has been taking up your mantle by the look of it and investigating walkovers.
Good.
In their region. It was in the counties leagues in the south east. And I'm going to try and find it. Oh yeah, Scott Lydon. He says, see below about the state of the game. These are only the nationals and not the merit leagues where the problem is more acute. So the merit leagues are where it's second,
2s, 3s,
second, third teams. So this is London and South East. In the London and South East League, 57 home walkovers and 21 away walkovers. 55 home walkovers, so 63 in total walkovers in the Midlands, 35 in the North, and 170 in the Southwest.
170.
That's quite a lot.
In total, there's 346 walkovers in the first half of the season.
Does he give how many games there are in total in that period? But I mean,
yes, it's a good question. I don't know.
Obviously, you want to know it as a percentage or a ratio, but even without that, that's still shocking numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And
I mean, if there was 100 million games and there's 346, that's tolerable numbers. But there were fewer than 100 million games.
Yeah, so it's on target to be around about the 700 mark for the season if that is replicated in the second half, which is concerning to say the least.
Yeah.
So definitely one to watch. Yeah.
So very good win for Sale.
Yeah, extremely good. Statement victory.
Massively. There was another good.
A few statement victories.
Statement victory in a top of the table, or what would historically be a top of the table clash.
A mid-table versus top of the table clash is what you mean.
Currently, this season, yes,
and last season,
very much so. Saracens hammered Exeter.
Yeah, it's a point that this isn't even funny.
This was a beatdown as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
this was like almost not a shot fired from Exeter, and Saracens just in control, having fun. Faz with the pass out the back.
What a pass.
Just stopped and admired it and high-fiving his teammates as it was Lewington crashed over for that one, wasn't it?
I'm going to find it. There's a great article from Owen Farrell as well, actually, that I saw.
I mean, Exeter did better than Leicester. Got to give him credit.
Better.
2 points better, did they not?
Well, but they conceded 5 fewer.
That is true. But
So the points difference was worse for Leicester.
exactly.
35 to 32.
Yeah, so Exeter did worse. Did better.
Did better.
Sorry, did better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we go. It's a quote from Owen Farrell. I'm not bothered about the opinions of people I don't care about. Sorry.
Edgy.
I'm not bothered. I'm not after praise from people I don't know. Sorry, I
Okay,
misrepresented him slightly.
That is slightly
Weird.
different.
Not I don't care about. That
What a
sounded
weird
like
comment.
Well,
That's a bizarre comment.
he's much maligned by many people, yourself included.
Because of those stupid comments.
When was the last time you heard a comment like that from Owen Farrell?
Well, no, it's just added fuel to the fire. He doesn't care. But what do you mean he doesn't care about the opinions of people that he doesn't know? I mean, if that was actually your genuine opinion in life, you'd wander around just being an absolute arsehole all the time. I don't know these people, so what difference does it make?
Is that why you behave your way?
Correct. That's exactly why. That's exactly why. At least I back it up.
So it's the
So
it's the narcissism of small differences, you and Owen Farrell.
Yeah, at least I back it up with consistently arsehole-like behaviour. So, no, what a rubbish comment. Anyway.
It's not quite as funny as the Zlatan Ibrahimovic quote, "The lion doesn't interest himself with the opinion of sheep."
Yeah, he is actually my favourite sportsman. Yeah, Ibrahimovic.
I do like Ibrahimovic.
He's incredible. He's incredible. It was Ronaldo for a little while, but now it's Ibrahimovic. just for his antics.
Yeah. Partying with Castro Giovanni.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I wonder what Castro's up to now. Still
Japan?
Pool party.
Pool parties?
Pool parties. He did like Strictly Come Dancing or something a few years ago in Italy, didn't he?
Don't know, did he?
Yeah.
So
it was last I've heard of him. Other than the debacle last couple of years where it came out that he wasn't actually eligible to play for Italy when he got capped. That was in about 2002, so irrelevant.
So, Exeter.
Yes.
I think things are going to get worse for them, you know.
Well, they're losing a few more players.
Yeah, but is it, what's his name? Back row, who everyone loves.
Vermeulen?
No, the other one?
Ewers.
No, the other one?
Simmons. Capstick.
No, it's South African one.
Kirsten.
Apparently Kirsten's on his way back to a South African team.
Really?
Which is going to be a big loss because I think he's a good player. And
as long as they keep everyone else, he is a good player, but he's one of many losses actually.
Yeah, I think they are struggling to find what their team is going to be like. I think they're struggling to replicate the success that they had with. I mean, obviously these players aren't nobodies, but they were nobodies when they showed up at Exeter.
Well, I can't remember who we were talking about this in relation to last week. Might have been Saracens actually. Funnily enough, this being the game, we were talking about Saracens. The young guys that there aren't quite the same 18, 19, 20-year-olds coming into the Saracens team that there were when Itoje and Farrell and Jamie George and all the rest of it came through. And I suppose the same is possibly true in Exeter.
Well, it's a funny thing. When teams are doing really well, you can introduce youngsters in and they don't look out of place because the rest of the team is so strong.
Yeah, you introduce
but there isn't the
one
same,
or two at a time.
But with the case of Saracens and Exeter, there isn't the same impetus because you've got a quality cast of international standard players.
Yeah,
both
that
having
is
got
true.
to the top of Europe, so there's not the opportunity for them. Whereas there are other clubs where a lot of youngsters are coming through, where the opportunities have presented themselves because the squad hasn't been that great.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Exeter. It's up. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a rebuild. I don't think they're going to have to bring in loads more players. But the players they've currently got have just got to get a lot better.
Got to step up.
Leicester was the example when Borthwick came in. It had Leicester been a top performing team challenging for honours, would all of those youngsters that are now fixtures in the team, would they all have had the same opportunity to come in?
No. And he had to go.
Had there been relegation, would they have all had the same opportunity to come in?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Exeter do lack a bit of quality in depth. I think second row would be one area. I think centres is the other area, and actually a 9 as well. I don't think Morden's. I've always liked Maunder, but I don't think he's kicked on. Either of them.
It's big drop from Nick White, whoever it was. Massive.
So I never thought they needed Nick White because do you remember Townsend played the final? I think won the final before Nick White showed up. Well, he's played a final
in the Premiership final.
Yes, And I thought, wow, Nick White seems like a very expensive luxury now. But no, it does seem like he's made an enormous difference, and losing him has made an enormous difference.
Yeah. Peter Shaw has emailed contact@eggchasers@gmail.com and was watching the Saracens v Exeter game. I think Peter's over in the States, isn't he? So that must have been the game on Peacock over there. He says, does any winger work harder than Jack Knoll? I'd argue no. His second point on this game was, I think, as you've said, Saracens completely outplayed a decent Exeter team in every facet. It helps they can bring several internationals and near internationals like Tizard off the bench, and Springbok Francois Huhard could be seen on the bench, not in the 23, calculating how to continue to pay for his Lambo. Now Wasps have collapsed. I actually saw the normally dour Owen Farrell smile not once but twice during the match. Once when Andy Christie scored his first try, and the second time when he set up Lewington's try with that ridiculous pass. He was pure class and controlled the game masterfully. The Chiefs still have the market cornered on the worst haircuts in the Prem. All fair points.
Yes. And the Faz, there was the Grubber kick. What was that for the Christie try? There was a Grubber kick early on in the first half where he kind of showed and then dropped it onto his foot. But it never got replayed. Like, it was just... If it's the kind of thing where if Finn Russell does that, or Marcus Smith, everyone is talking about it for weeks. And the out-the-back pass was the same.
Yeah,
I thought Faz was absolutely class in this game.
He has been all this year
season.
in the Prem. Peter says some rugby wishes. I wonder if you want to add to any of these or echo any of these. He would like more ball in hand.
Nope.
More 8-3s or 8-6s.
Fewer human caterpillars protecting the box kick.
Nope.
I'm okay. So I'm okay
the 5
with that.
seconds is in force. So that's
what you? My thing would be, as soon as the ball is playable at any point in the caterpillar, you've got 5 seconds. That's where it's use it.
100%.
Because now you're given about 15 seconds to get the caterpillar set up, and then you've given 5 seconds.
And the first game of 2023, you have to say, if Luke Pearce was
awesome.
Yeah, if that was the directive and that's how it could be going, great.
So I didn't actually think that's why Luke Pearce was good. I liked it because he made decisions and people disagree with him. Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree. He's in charge. He did that several times.
And on that point, which is Peter then says less meddling by the TMO for small offences the ref misses. That is what's now happening.
Yeah.
Warriors somehow making a comeback in the Championship. And again, it's all gone quiet on that front now still.
They're not coming back.
Doesn't feel great, does it?
Doesn't feel great. Hoping for the most competitive Rugby World Cup ever. At this stage, we talked about this previously, it looks like we're heading towards that. A more harmonious World Rugby calendar. I remember a time when somehow the English Prem, Pro 14, Top 14, Currie Cup, Super Rugby, Six Nations, Tri Nations and Fall Tours all somehow got done without much overlap. It's a good point. A better Heineken Cup tournament and a trip where JB doesn't lose his phone and wallet.
Yeah, remarkable.
He says this
format.
last one I appreciate is clearly the biggest reach in my hopes for 2023.
Me too, Peter.
In fact, that reminds me that there's a... I don't know if it would help you, actually, to be honest, but because I'm quite prone to losing phone, keys or wallet. I got Father Christmas in my little stocking, brought me a couple of these little devices. One that slides into a wallet and one that goes on my key ring.
Unbelievably, I lost my wallet with that thing in it. A petrol station, I'm sure it just dropped off. Anyway, I've tried them. They're no good.
Okay.
They don't work. I was going to say something about Luke Pearce. He did the Northampton Quins game, did he not?
Yes.
That was a good game.
That's
another
statement
Yeah.
win for Northampton, because they showed they had a bit of grit that they quite often lack.
They looked amazing. Like, they looked genuinely amazing.
Ferocious.
In comms, they were saying Dan Bigger's been great. Dan Bigger had been great for them. They have pulled off some coup with Finn Smith. And to put him in there and just to watch him play as well as he is, it's quite something.
His range of passing is exceptional.
Do you know the guy who plays at Gloucester? Atkinson, centre. Seb Atkinson.
The second best.
Atkinson
centre in Gloucester.
Do you know he was a 10?
Just like Mark Atkinson.
Of course, he couldn't play 10 because he's the same age group as Finn Smith, which is why he plays in centres now. He's also absolutely enormous. He's a big old boy. He doesn't play like Mark Atkinson, though. I've got to say, he's a bit more robust going forward, but doesn't have the hands. But yeah, that was quite an interesting chat. I was like, so how come you're playing where you are. So, well, Finn Smith was playing 10, and therefore I wasn't able to apply my trade there. But Finn Smith, Northampton, right? They have had some questionable recruitment decisions in the past, but generally speaking, they get it more right than wrong, particularly when it comes to recruiting young English talent. So when they won the Premiership, that was all based on young English talent. I think that was based on Steve Diamond and Malander being part of the England under-20 setup maybe at the time. But they've got this knack of identifying young English talent and then making them the cornerstone of their team for years and years to come. It's quite impressive.
The one question mark would be the front row.
Yes.
And Quins aren't going to give you, well, particularly a Marler less Quins aren't going to give you the examination that some other sides will.
Well, Marler and Lowe not starting is obviously a big deal. But they have tried to address that with the front row. But I think in the same way that you can gamble on a young 10, because you can look at him and go, yeah, skills are good, kicking's good, yeah, he can stretch the field with his boot, yada, yada, yada. There's some indications that this boy is going to be quite good, right? It's a very different thing when you're picking up props. So they tried to do this with Paul Hill.
Mm-hmm. Who started this weekend?
Yeah, who he got in when he was 21.
Franks.
Both
Franks.
Franks.
Yeah. No, that was London Irish got both Franks.
Yeah.
Was it London Irish?
They only had the
London Irish
one.
went for both Franks, and then Northampton went for the better Franks.
Owen.
I thought Northampton got both Franks.
I don't think so.
I thought, who's the other one?
Well, anyway,
Ben and Owen.
Ben. Yeah, the old one.
Neither of them really worked.
Yeah.
The other lad, the huge tight head that they've got. Owen.
It'd be Aaron Painter.
Aaron Painter. Yeah, that's not really worked.
He was looking like he was going to be box office superstar.
Well, it's very hard.
Tight head a few years back.
Very hard to find good, effective young props. I mean, Leicester, they've got
they
a
both
couple.
did play at Northampton.
I thought they did.
Yeah,
because Irish got relegated, and then that's when they picked up Franks too.
Ben went there first, and Owen followed.
Okay.
Mm.
There you go.
So, yeah, I think they've tried to pull off the same trick of getting props in at a budget when they're young, like young English lads. But it's just harder to work out if they're going to be good. So Leicester have got some good young props. But even they rotate in with the more senior guys. I think James Whitcomb's very, very good. In fact, the only young props I can think of that have made a substantial impact immediately, people like Bevan Rod. But that's because they're more than just props. James Harper's very, very good at sale too.
Well, but
again,
more broadly speaking, I actually think, and we've talked about tight head, but props generally, bearing in mind England's DNA and what you've always thought, it's not great.
No, it's not, is it?
It's not great.
It's not. Well, that's what Dan calls it.
It's tight head that's not great, I think. I think loose head.
Yeah, loose head, actually.
Loose head, you've got options.
Ellis Genge, Joe Marler, Bevan Rod,
Valrapava
Ruskin. There's another one that's in the actual English. Mako Vunipola.
Yeah, there's plenty of loose heads.
Yeah, Mako's a great prop, an all-time great prop. Maybe not a great scrummager.
Yeah, agreed.
I think Marler is the most complete of the loose heads. Still to this day, he is the best loose head. And he might be the best loose head by some distance.
Scrummager. Genge
his work around the park, though.
Genge is a very good scrummager. And
good carrier.
And his carrying is different level.
It's good carrier. Yeah, it is.
He's totally different kettle of fish to Marler.
He got mullered last time out for England.
Yeah.
Well, as the whole England front row did.
Yeah.
Well, look, you've got Genge, whose thing is aggressive ball carrying, being very aggressive in your face, decent scrummager. I would say that Vunipola is the lesser of the scrummagers, but then has this amazing ability to carry and also use his hands.
His hands are... Did you see the little trick play for the Andy Christie try?
No, I didn't.
In the Saracens game, which was a Saracens lined up to do...
The first try, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first try. Yeah, they lined up to do what Exeter do to other teams, which was penalty 5 metres from Exeter's line. Mako lined up to tap it and go and crash up, and he tapped it and he kind of dived forward at the line as if he's gonna crash in, and then just popped it to Billy, who popped it to Andy Christie, and Andy Christie just flops over the line.
That's ridiculous.
It was quality. It was awesome.
I might have to look that up actually.
It was absolutely. It was. I'll tell you one thing. It was high risk. It was
relatively high risk.
It was not simple. I don't know if it was intended for Mako to pass while diving, or whether he just tapped the ball too far because he got a bit excited.
Oh, I see.
But it looked incredible. It worked it couldn't have worked any better.
Yeah, I think where Marler's got the advantage over all of them is his hard work in defence. And I think that's actually more important than being able to carry, being able to handle. And he can do this.
Bilingual as well.
Bilingual, yeah. He can communicate with Spanish referees, no problem. It's weird, isn't it? When Wayne Bond speaks French, he gets all sorts of plaudits. But Marler, nothing.
Well, you've brought this awareness to the table. No one knew about Joe Marler's.
Well, that's because they don't do the research that I do. Hey, I've been drinking with another rugby luminary this week.
In fact, let's talk about Gloucester for a bit. The actual day at Gloucester.
Well, yeah, okay.
Because you, like you say, you had a few beers with Ed Slater.
Yep.
And
Jamal.
Well, me and Jamal destroyed the rest of the household at Trivial Pursuit. So it's Jamal and I versus my wife, her sister, and her husband.
What,
right?
At the place you were staying?
Yeah.
Oh, Jamal came. Did he go back with you after, or
yeah? So he gave us a lift, and then we ended up playing a quick game of Trivial Pursuit.
Love it.
Now, Jamal's job is effectively to just push humans around a rugby field. That is his expertise.
And throw people about a wrestling ring.
Yeah, throw people around a wrestling ring. It's very much, things which don't have a selection or a section on Trivial Pursuits. My hobby is actually very, very similar, which is trying to push men around fields. Against us, stacked up a formidable range of 7 degrees and 2 masters. We smashed them. Never ever mistake qualifications for intelligence. So after we gave them an absolute beatdown.
Is it a new version of Trivial Pursuit? So, we used to play it all the time, but I've not seen it for years.
Have
is
you
it still
not?
the same?
Well, I don't know which version this was. It felt a little bit more modern. So we battered them at Trivial Pursuit, and then we thought, right, well, let's play our game. And then we scrimmaged them around the house over and over again. Game over. So, yeah. Gloucester it's a funny old place. It's like nowhere that I've been to watch rugby before. So various places have various appeals to them. Obviously, Bath is incredible. We've spoke many times about the delights of the AJ Bell. Harlequins, I really enjoy the match experience. But there's nothing quite like Gloucester. It's quite cool and it's quite bizarre. So Gloucester is a town, there's not that much going on there, to be fair.
Nope.
Most of it kind of goes on in Cheltenham, so that's where you want to go for your beers. But when you get there, they've got like a range of pubs, so Teagues is good fun.
Yeah.
But there's this other one, which is just outside of Kingsholm, and they've got a DJ playing, and it's completely pitch black, and it's 6 at night, and it feels like, well, they're basically playing some sort of Ibiza set, and it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. So we had a few beers there. I would actually say at this point, Jamal is probably the most famous non-international rugby player in Gloucester. In fact, if not the most famous international rugby player.
Were there any other... You didn't have a control group with this because you were just with Jamal, who's a Gloucester player.
Yeah.
Were there any other Gloucester players that were getting blanked and not looked at? Because I think it's just Gloucester. If you're a Gloucester rugby player, you're
a big deal.
You're a big deal.
You're a huge deal. Yeah, that is fair. We didn't have a control group. He's also used for various sort of presentations. So he had to give a shirt to a couple of local Euro millionaires, which is quite cool. I suspect they were looking for some sponsorship.
Yeah, I imagine there might be the oil in some wheels there.
Yeah, here's a shirt. Give us 10 million quid, please, or whatever it may be. So I couldn't recommend Gloucester more highly just for a pure rugby experience. We got to the...
And I'm just going to say, in every sense of what you just said, you said it for a pure rugby experience, as in it's a proper rugby, but it's like rugby for the purist. It's
perfect.
They've got a real modern track that they play on now, and the team play really good rugby. But in every sense, it's like an old school afternoon, isn't it?
You go to the AJ Bell an hour before kickoff. No one's in there. They're all having a beer outside. I arrived at Kingsholm at 12 p.m. Kickoff is at 3, so 3 hours to burn. 12 p.m. And I go out onto this little balcony area and look across at the shed. Bloody hell, what are those guys doing there? And the shed is half full. It's half full. Now, I don't know how Gloucester are not profitable. I genuinely don't know. I mean, maybe there's not enough people in hospitality. Maybe they don't have enough high-value sort of fans or whatnot, but the fan base is superb. So they come about a couple of hours before the people in the shed, just have a few beers and make sure they've got their place. I've never seen anything. I mean, in Watch Sale, we certainly don't have that there. I mean, there are things in Sale they actually do better than Gloucester, but that's not one of them.
There are quite a few people that turn up early at the Crumbie stand in Leicester to get their spot on the terraces there.
Do they?
But same goes. They're just like massively passionate rugby crowds. It's great.
It really is. It really is. And also, I must admit, I've got a real soft spot for Gloucester players in general. They just all seem like a good bunch. Like, they all seem very approachable. I mean, I've interviewed God knows how many of them now, about 5 or 6 of them. So I don't know what it is about that club, but they seem. I wonder if it's a case of, is it an accident? Is it a case that they pick up people that are just nice players, nice lads? I don't know, but they all seem to be very approachable, good people.
Gloucester is the sort of place egos are not tolerated, and I'm trying to think of examples of where it hasn't worked. But I'm sure Gloucester seems to me, like I said, it feels old school.
Yeah,
and the fact it's in town, connected to its community, and its community is very traditional. And there's quite a. Like you say, Cheltenham's up the road. That's all very nice and well to do. Gloucester's got a kind of little bit of grit to it, hasn't it?
It's like it's how can I say? It's the Somerset version of Wigan, or the Gloucestershire version of Wigan. Really, I mean, it's like an old industrial town from the north, between these nice little towns like Bath and Cheltenham and all the rest of it.
And you can imagine I can imagine Wigan Rugby League's the same. You're not gonna
they're
not gonna deal with prima donnas.
No. Now, I tell you who is going to be a legitimate hero in Gloucester, if he stays there for any length of time, is Santi Carreras. Oh, my word. That boy is so good. And
he's rapid.
Yeah. He's seriously talented, isn't he?
And, we were joking that, Mark Atkinson came on this podcast, and he actually couldn't name him as an international fly. Who did he name as an international fly-off before he named?
Well, Hastings.
No, he named someone else. Did he say Billy 12 or something? Do you think it's a trick question?
Maybe, or Lloyd Evans, maybe?
Yeah, he named someone else. Like, no, Santi Carreras. That last kick, it was not in doubt by anyone who plays with him that he was going to get it over. It's like,
what was the game like to watch? Because 6-5 on the, or 8-5, 8-6, sorry.
8-6.
Couldn't be any
Classic.
better. Couldn't be any better.
It's nearly your perfect scoreline, though.
Yeah, it was.
With London Irish and Gloucester on that surface, I know I was up the road in Stroud, and the weather was miserable.
It was miserable, but London Irish, and fair play to them. They still play some nice stuff. There's some nice moves running. I think if I'm to be critical of Gloucester as a team, they need to look at their attack a bit more closely. They don't offer much going forward, so they get into the right positions. Their line out is pretty decent, as we all know, but they don't have that cutting edge, and I don't know what it is. But there's something missing from that.
Mark Atkinson's missing.
It could be that. It could be that. It feels more system-led to me. It feels that they don't know really what they're doing as a team. So it's hard to say. But their attack does need not much work, but something needs to change.
Carreras is such a talented individual, but he's not playing in the position that the system is set up for him to play in.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the 15 with Adam Hastings.
Well, he's meant to be a winger.
10. Well,
he showed up as a winger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he is going to be a shed superstar should he stay there.
I'm curious.
He's
does Ed Slater go to every game? Because he was at that game and you sat next to him?
I don't know, actually. So he's still watching a lot of rugby.
Yeah.
So if you want to know anything about, six-man lineouts.
He was nosing with you on 6-man lineouts.
Exactly.
Did you have a little notebook out?
He did have a notebook out actually, and I and I taught him everything that he needed to know. Can I tell you that story? He did tell me one cool story, which I really enjoyed, and maybe I should get him back on the podcast to tell it in a bit more detail. When Aaron Major was in charge at Leicester, the first thing he did as a culture thing was made all the players carry this rope everywhere. The rope was going to bind them together. And you had to carry the rope into meeting rooms, into whatever. And he said, in the end, we just had to sit down and look, it's fine, but it's not working. Apparently he was devastated. Like why? So, there's quite a few cool little anecdotes like that. I can't remember why we got onto that.
He knew his audience. He was talking to JB. I know a story JB will love about culture.
I would say him and I think very, very similar about things such as culture. And I tell you what, they do like Skivington. I think Skivington. You talk about the no nonsense culture of Gloucester. Well, this guy is no nonsense. You know, the fact that he's gone back to driving balls. How much do they love a driving ball? How much do they love a scrum? They've got 2 props now in
Rapala Ruskin
and Balmain who are doing the business. Jamal will be coming back into circulation soon. It's going to be good. So you know, it's like the whole club and the whole town sort of fits together. They've done. I'm still baffled, you know, how they ended up with Skivington. Because if you think about the amount of money that they spent on high-end coaches and celebrities coaching types. So David Humphreys Johan Ackerman.
Yeah.
There's someone else in the mix there. I can't remember now. And then, anyway, so Ackerman then had a bevy of coaches beneath him. Like, to get rid of those guys and go, yeah, we'll have the line-out coach from London Irish, and for it to be as successful as it is, shows some real thoughts. Real thoughts.
So a good win all round.
Yep, completely agree.
And after capitulating in the way they did against Leicester, they had to win.
They had to, and it puts them in 4th place in the top 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to have the firepower to do much in the play. It depends. Isn't it? I think less.
Well, they'll be, if they stay where they are, they'll be travelling away to Saracens, which I don't think they've got enough of. If they get into Man U, you're going to be playing Saracens or Sale away as it currently stands.
Well, both Sale
the
and
best
Saracens.
matchup in the current position would be if they could get them to play Harlequins.
Yes.
That would be the matchup that would suit them best.
Well, as I did mention on last week's podcast, Sale have got to go away 6 times, and Gloucester have all 5 more times. 6. No, Sale have got to go away 6 times.
Yeah,
and Gloucester have got 5 more home games and only 4 away games.
Well, if just in terms of the table, so Saracens are top. They're 10 points clear at the top on 48. They've only lost the 1 game against Irish last week. Sale then are 7 points clear in 2nd place on 38, and then it's Harlequins 1 place above Gloucester, 1 point above Gloucester, who are 1 point above Saints, who are 1 point above Leicester. So you've got those 4 teams all separated by 4 points.
Yeah.
So that's where the congestion really is.
I just think Sale are looking frighteningly good. Frighteningly physical. And they're winning their games pretty much in a one-dimensional way, with Rob Dupree giving them multi-dimensions on top of that, of course.
Yeah, because like Luke James and O'Flaherty, when it opened up a bit late on, they were brilliant. Who
said Jack Knowles the hardest working winger?
Peter Shaw.
Peter Shaw's wrong. O'Flaherty is. He works so hard. He chases things. He's in the middle of everything. Again, that's another great pickup. Another one who I didn't think would work at all well, and I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong on that.
Those 2 guys they were obviously very talented players. The key question is, how much does it cost? Because to get someone to move from English club to English club, you've got to pay through the nose.
I just thought they were part of the Exeter system, and it was Exeter that made them brilliant. The fact that they were good players in their own right.
They're both quality players, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. I think O'Flaherty is
just hardest working winger since Miles Benjamin.
Miles Benjamin, yeah, he's rucking. People don't talk about the rucking capabilities of wingers enough anymore.
Absolutely,
no, and that's what sets our knowledge apart from everybody else's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Miles Benjamin.
I'm looking at the table. I've just mentioned the table.
Yeah,
there are only 3 teams in the league with positive points difference.
That is curious.
It is. Now there are then 2. So Gloucester have -1, and Saints are 0. So
really?
2, but then everyone else is significant negative. So the 3 teams are
Sale.
Saracens, Sale, and
yes,
Quins.
Correct. Yeah, the top 3 teams. Everyone from 4 down is neutral or negative.
Wow.
Madness.
Just before we depart, Gloucester, email from Will Barnes, contact EggChasers@gmail.com, says, boys, love the pod, you know the rest. Opinions on Lewis Ludlow to be back in the England squad. Admittedly a very left field choice, and I'm a Gloucester fan, so I know I'm biased. However, as a still playing former England captain, surely he has to be in the conversation. He's the embodiment of Borthwick's every game matters mantra, and he would represent a fresh start for a new era.
I like him. I do like him. I'd have to say no, unfortunately.
I'm the same. I think he's a very good player. He's very hard working. He's just not quite he's not quite as top end as the competition.
Agreed.
The guy who this weekend I thought, so I misheard that when you first said it. I thought you referred to Lewis Ludlam.
Yes, who I'd like to talk about.
Superb game.
He had a great game at number 8.
Yes, yeah.
With Augustus shifted to the flank.
But he can play across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ludlam's performance for Saints this week I thought was outstanding. He's still not the heaviest of carriers, but he just brings so much violence to contact. You know, England could do much worse than Ludlow, Curry, and another at 6. Just as you carriers, so they're not huge men, but put violence they bring.
Ludlam and Curry as 6 and 7,
and then
could do
Billy.
Or you could have Big Courts at 6.
Big Courts that'll do me.
Ludlam and Curry. You could have Dom Brandt with Ludlam and Curry. You could even have maybe those two don't pay enough of the Simmons tax.
Yeah, I don't know.
There is a slight Dom Brandt tax as well. You have to pay
work rate
because you basically have to build the game around like Dom Brandt. You go roam, pop up where you want,
read the game.
Other guys will do a lot of that dog work.
Yeah,
Curry would do that. I don't know if Ludlam would, because Ludlam is in himself a focal point for carrying.
He does some of the tough stuff as well. But you're right. I don't know if you can make that work with Dom Brandt at international level. Quins make it work beautifully.
All England's number 8s. There's a Billy tax, there's a Simmons tax, and there's a Dom Brandt tax.
Do you know the one who I would be interested to see is Will Evans coming to England? I think he's superb. Now, he's a bit smaller, but so is Quagga Smith. So Will Evans it's a smaller back row, so it's not necessarily how I'd like
There's
to do
definitely a Will Evans tax.
Yeah.
You need some big boys in there.
Dave Ewers, get him in as well.
Dave Ewers
now you might be talking.
Mind you, Will Evans, why is there a Simmons tax? There's a Simmons tax because you need Simmons out in wide channels, and he's not going to power forward through contact and that sort of stuff. What should we do? You do need a Will Evans tax because he's constantly winning you ball. The only tax that you're paying is when the opposition have the ball and he's stealing it from them.
Yeah, but if you're talking rolling maul defence, so he gives up X stone to the opposition.
Yep.
He's also not really a line-out threat or disruptor.
No.
So there's trade-offs. It's always trade-offs.
Yeah.
Although
unless your name is Charles Olivon, in which case there are no trade-offs.
he doesn't have many trade-offs.
Complete package.
He has everything.
As a human being.
Yes, there are no trade-offs there.
Did you see? So Will Evans didn't play this week. Did you see the tackle that meant from last week that meant he didn't play this week?
No,
I did not.
Oh, he got his head on the wrong side with a full force semi-randrandra. It was ugly. It was really, really ugly tackle.
Concussion case or neck?
I think he was out immediately. Hit the deck hard.
Yeah, if I'm going to tackle semi-randrandra, yeah, I don't want to be concussed, but I think being instantly knocked out is probly my best option.
Your man is your best option.
Here we go.
Your limp mop body may act as a little speed hump for someone else to.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. That's.
Got an email here from Danny Meaden, contact EggChasers@gmail.com. Says, I'm a big rugby league and union fan.
Ooh.
And so I have a question for Phil. You played against Henry Paul, didn't you?
I did.
Any good?
Yes, he was fairly handy.
Who was he playing for at the time?
Leeds Tykes. Yeah, he was at that point. So I was a Salford Reds season ticket holder. I'd seen Wigan at the Willows, JB's favourite all-time sports ground.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
Many times. I'd seen him at Central Park as well. I'd actually played when I was about 12 or 14, I want to say. I'm trying to work out the ages. Anyway, when I was young as a kid, played a curtain raiser at Central Park when Wigan were playing, and I can't actually explicitly remember, but I'm certain Henry Paul was playing in that game for Wigan, and then to play against him
must have been surreal.
About 10 years later was ridiculous.
So,
what do you remember of him when he was playing Union against you?
He didn't need to do very much. So we played Leeds Tykes at Headingley. We got beat. I think it was 60 points to 0. We got beat. And he had. I think he played 12. He had great hands, great distribution. I don't remember him carrying or hitting much because he didn't need to, because he just pulled the strings for everyone around him. My opposite man that day was. Let me guess. Were
you on the wing? I'm going to go Tom Biggs. Not
No.
Tom Biggs. What's his name? Is that the guy's
Yeah,
name
Tom
who's now a
Biggs.
bodybuilder?
Yeah, no, he's not known as a winger.
Hang on, who were you playing?
So playing against Leeds Tykes in about 2000 and
So it's not
let's
Ryan.
say 8 or 9.
Not Ryan Hall.
Not right. No.
Not Keith Senior.
2008.
No, I'd love to watch you
Not
play.
no, not Rugby League.
Oh, rugby, sorry,
Not
Leeds
Rugby
Tykes. Sorry, Rugby
Rugby
Union.
Union or Leeds County, whatever they were called at that point.
Okay,
So
and this was
he's-
2000 and what?
Maybe 2009,
2009.
2008, 2009.
Luther Burrell.
No, not Big Luth. So
Down Scarborough.
he's still in rugby, although he's not currently in rugby for obvious reasons.
Israel Folau.
He's very much still in rugby. He's a coach these days, but he's not coaching right now.
Sinfield.
Not Sinfield.
Is he in jail?
He's not in jail.
He's not coaching.
More financial problems, more insolvency, or
What on
administration.
earth?
Lee Blackett.
Lee Blackett was my
Oh,
opposite
really?
man that day. Yeah.
He was a good player.
He was more a centre.
Yeah,
at,
centre and
He
fullback.
played for Rotherham.
Oh, no, he is coaching. He's coached at Scarlets.
Oh,
Yes, he is. He's on Scarlets.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So Phil just mentioned the Salford City Reds, and I don't want to go too far down the Salford City Reds rabbit hole. When I first moved to Manchester, I started watching Salford City Reds, and this was the time when they were all right, actually. They made the playoffs. So Sean Ruggerson was a big South African second row prop. We
South
had
African.
Sean Ruggerson, yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't following them at that
No,
point.
was South African or was he Australian?
There's not many South African rugby league players.
Well-
Imagine if South Africa took rugby league seriously.
Our prop was I want to say he was like a Lebanese Australian guy. He was absolutely massive. I've tried to look him up and I can't find him. Can't find what this guy's name is. Absolutely massive guy. But the captain and hooker was a guy called Malcolm Alka. You heard of Malcolm Alka?
Why do I know that name?
Wow.
We have mentioned
We might
on
mention
the
Malcolm
pod
Alka before.
a few times.
So, we would do silly little songs like Malcolm Alka, right, all the rest of it. So, anyway, if we just Google Malcolm Alka.
Malcolm Alka. Okay.
So, let's, The Sun has a story about Malcolm Alka, 44 years old now.
I just vaguely remember you bringing him up again.
Ex-England rugby league star jailed over terrifying cocaine-fueled machete-wielding Halloween rampage on Tesco and KFC.
Yes.
Jesus.
Oh God.
Whoops. Here's a picture of Malcolm Alka topless. Here's his good Nick. Yeah. It went very downhill. I seem to remember him being arrested for trying to rob various places after he finished.
Yeah.
But a good rugby league player, and that's most important.
Hard. He's a hooker, wasn't he, Malcolm Alka?
He was a hooker, and he was the captain.
I just saw another email here, which I'm going to... This taking us from around the different sports. Andy...
Oh, sorry, he's also owner of A9 Building Services Limited.
There you
So
go.
if you need some building done, Malcolm Alka.
Andy's emailed contact@eggchasers@gmail.com, and he's just watched Brentford beat Liverpool and saw Ben Ryan sitting behind the bench.
Ooh. Oh, no.
And he's wicked it. And is it right? Ben Ryan is now the director of elite performance at Brentford.
I think that is right, actually.
So I've not heard. I've got a soft spot for Brentford. A bit of a fan because of the way that they've done things. You've got this professional gambler and data-driven owner who bought it on the back of his winnings and has applied an incredibly data-driven approach to Brentford. But then they also bought a club in Denmark, I think it is, and so they bring in lots of players for very cheap, based on their statistics, and then either play them through Brentford and then sell them on for a higher price. Like Ollie Watkins is an example. They bought for, the numbers are wrong, but the magnitude's right, 300k, and they sold him for 30 million, kind of thing. And they do the same with their Danish club and bring players through. And also one of my favourite footballers at the moment is Christian Norgard, who's their Danish defensive midfielder, who I think is a quality operator. But I didn't know. I've just looked it up. And he is.
That's cool. So
Over the summer.
he's succeeding where Clive Woodward failed, because Clive Woodward, after his rugby thing, went to Southampton in the same role.
I don't think he was given much of a shot, though, really, because he was beneath Harry Redknapp, or above Harry Redknapp, or adjacent to Harry Redknapp. And either way you look at that, it's not. It's
that's nice.
Slightly different philosophies.
If you're employing Harry Redknapp, I don't think you can simultaneously employ Clive Woodward. That would be my thought.
Whereas Ben Ryan probably fits in incredibly well because of the philosophy that Brentford have. There was a good Atlantic article. There's probably others on the rise of Brentford.
I am just googling other rugby league offenders, and do you remember Scott Moore? Here's one for the
Scott Moore.
We actually told this story on stage in Madrid.
You're gonna have to remind me.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. Scott Moore was the guy who got into a 100-mile-an-hour chase with police, the ex-St Helens hooker. And when they got there, a taser was discharged 5 times. The first 4 times was into Scott Moore, and the 5th time was when Scott Moore wrestled the taser off the police officers and said, quote, according to The Guardian, "You're getting it now." He was subsequently locked up for 23 months. Rightly so.
Yep. Well, happy with that.
Not the
Tell
same.
you what, though, if you're going to go down after 4 taser shots and you can still get the taser off someone.
Not the same, but it just reminded me of a post that someone put in a communal rugby group we're in.
I know the one you're going to say.
About the Japanese player Seo Fafita. The Japanese press reporting that the Japanese international went out with 5 women at the same time.
Lad.
Asked one of them to send him €1,500 to Tonga, which he then used to marry a Tongan woman.
Heart wants what it wants.
Ridiculous.
Again, that's comes. I haven't verified the veracity of that. I don't know. I've just scurrilously reporting a WhatsApp message that got forwarded to a group we're in.
Could be total nonsense.
Yeah, it could be. So do your own research.
But it looked professional, so
yeah.
There's no way Scott Moore was fighting 3 male officers. They must have been female officers. There's just no way. There's no way.
They could have been trans. They could now identify as male.
I was reading the story, like, there's 3 officers. No. You can't wrestle 2 people, let alone 3.
3.
Just can't do it.
Especially not with tasers in your body.
Tasers. No.
I do like it when you see a real specimen of a police officer.
We've got one in our CrossFit gym. Super Copper Keith.
Yeah, no, I like that, but equally, I do
Terrifying
notice
individual.
sometimes you see some, and even though I'm doing nothing of a criminal nature, that's one of the things I do when I see police officers. I'm like, yeah, I could outrun them. Yeah, I could get away from them.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have trouble with this one.
Yeah.
That's just one way that I judge them.
Yeah, Super Copper
when I
Keith
see
can do muscle-ups for days. He's massive. Absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other games? Newcastle played?
Yeah, Bath beat Newcastle. And
Bath are like 7th in the table now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing all right. They're 8th currently. 23. Is this table updated?
The reign of Johan is going all right.
I think it is updated.
Well, it couldn't have gone any worse, could it, to be honest?
It couldn't have gone much worse. They are on the upward trajectory. Thanks to, again, Ollie Lawrence and Ted Hill scoring.
Yeah.
Why were Worcester so bad?
If they didn't have these 2 boys...
So, Finn Smith is lining up for Northampton.
Yep.
Ollie Lawrence and Ted Hill are
they're
doing
the
what they do.
reason why Bath are actually winning some games.
Well, okay, so Gloucester have got 30 points. Bath are only, 7 points behind them?
Mm-hmm.
It's not inconceivable to say Bath could catch up to top 4. I mean, it's going to be difficult. I mean, for that matter,
They just need
anyone really.
So
I mean, Bristol are only 9 points behind Gloucester.
Across the next 9 games, they just need 2 more wins than Gloucester achieve. So it's not inconceivable.
Not inconceivable.
They're going to play Gloucester once, so that's one of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, even Bristol, if they went on a run, could conceivably challenge for top 4, which is amazing, actually, how tight the league is. See? Salary caps work.
Apart from the top 2, who are 10 and 7 points. Saracens are 17 points clear, as it stands.
It's quite impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
10 points clear.
They're 17 points clear of the rest of the
of
field.
being outside the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're even more. They're 19 points of being outside the playoffs.
Wow.
So Bristol were the team that didn't play this week. Is that right? No.
Yes.
Correct.
Bottom of the table. I tell you, there's not many people that need to be fired more than Pat Lam. I mean, you can't be bottom of the table with the amount of money that they spend, because it's not just about salary caps anymore, is it? It's salary caps, which everyone spends, so give them a pass on that. But it's access to resource, your coaching team, your high performance centre, They have given him everything he needs, and to be 11th, he is showing himself up to be a bit of a clown now.
And the irony is, for all the money that Bristol are spending, the most expensive thing they could do is fire Pat Lam, because he's got the 8-year deal. They can't afford to fire Pat Lam. They can spend as much as they can throw money at almost every problem. That is too expensive to do.
The only thing they can do really is just listen to Pat Lam and spend the money he wants.
It'd be multiples more expensive than England getting rid of Eddie Jones.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Anyway.
I don't know how they get out of this conundrum, actually, because they can't do what they used to, which is just buy the best foreign talent possible. They can't just go and get more semis or more Sir Charleses, because they've only got one marquee space. It pays to get young English players.
I have sympathy for Exeter. I have sympathy for Bristol. I have sympathy for Pat Lam and Bristol in the sense that Pat Lam's strategy worked. They finished top of the table when the salary cap was greater.
Mm-hmm.
And when you shrink it by a quarter and you take away one marquee spot, and then when you compound that with having significant injuries to the people who you've tied up a large amount of your money in Stephen Luatua but the point being is those injuries happened after this this change to the salary cap, and had that been done with a 5-year notice period, not a 9-month notice period, it's really tough.
That is fair.
And it's the same reason why Exeter
are struggling
now, because they assembled their squad in one fashion, and you like Leicester had the unique situation where they threw every game, cleared house, and were able to do that massive turnaround in 9 months because they just got rid of a load of players and had a good crop of youngsters coming through.
Do you think though? Like,
it's quite hard to do when you have people under contract and you have to turn the ship.
Yeah, before I criticise Bristol too much and Pat Lam, which I love to do, they do actually have a lot of young English or home developed players. That should be mentioned. But their strategy of just having the best team by spending the most, they just can't do it now. They can't do it.
They can't do it now. No. But they finished top of the table when they were able to do it.
I think you need so I think you're going to have to move away from coaches like Pat Lam, who are like spending coaches if you want. Although he does have a nice strategy for rugby or a nice.
And
he won with
Connacht, which is the opposite of that.
Yeah, that is true.
It's just I think your point is probably a fair one. It's that he set his ship sailing in one direction. It's a very big tanker to turn around. What's interesting will be how long it takes him to turn around and whether he can. Because he'd have to be ruthless to turn it around in the same way that Borthwick was.
Yeah. And you were very critical. I'm with justification. You were very critical of Borthwick. You thought it was a shame.
I still think it's a shame.
And I was.
I think it's a stain on his record. Actually,
it was a stain on the league that the lack of relegation was used in that fashion to go. We don't care about the results.
Yeah,
we're going to sack players, get rid of players for one season.
I think, easy to say with hindsight, I think it's fully justified. But I was the same as you. I thought it was disappointing at the time, but fully justified. I now do not think it's a stain on his record at all.
This sounds like a weird callback. Does Jordan Hardwick still play rugby?
I don't even know that name.
He was
maybe like Tom Hardwick.
Was it Tom Hardwick?
Oh, Tom Hardwick, that's it.
Yeah, 10/15.
Yeah, he's going to be the future of something. And then Leicester said, off you go, pal. Showed up at... Where did he go to? He went to Bristol. He's never come back. God, he's 23, so he's hardly like the future.
He was a precociously talented youngster. I don't know if he had I don't know if his kind of ethos matched Leicester's.
So according to this,
he was one of the casualties of the change.
He's at Sporting Club Albi.
Albi, where are they?
French 3rd Division.
Jesus, that went downhill rapidly.
Yeah. I've just been reminded this video is now 10 years old. Just change it. Are we done with the rugby, by the way?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, other than predictions for next week.
This video is 10 years old now, apparently, today.
Greatest weekend of my life. The greatest weekend of my life.
Right,
do you remember when Haskell...
Haskell did a play on it.
Did that one.
Right, next weekend's fixtures. Game at the Shed. JB, are you going to be going to go to this one?
Where is it?
Gloucester.
Well, if it's Gloucester, of course.
So Kingsholm host Saracens.
Oof.
Slightly more difficult opponents.
Well, no, not at all. In fact, if
you're quite the only team to beat Saracens.
Correct. If we were to put Ben Ryan logic into this, no, Dean Ryan,
a team that has beaten.
Yeah, the Saracens are 9 points less effective than Irish. So an absolute beatdown. Give me Gloucester, please.
Gloucester by more than 9.
More than 9.
9 plus 2, 11.
11. Yep.
Gloucester home to Sarries. I can't see past Sarries.
Be interesting to see what Surrey's do. Cause
I was pleased Ben Earl was able to play at the weekend as well. That's just one of the small thing.
Yeah, good point. It'd be interesting to see what Surrey's do because it's Europe the following weekend.
Ah, good point.
So there might be a few changed up teams.
Very good point.
2 games in 5 days for some teams as well.
Imagine if
that's a really great point.
Surrey's win this one. I guess it'll rest for the next game because what's the point? I think.
What in Europe?
No, they want a home. You want a home quarter final.
They should surely get
round
anyway,
of 16, home quarter final, home semi final.
Yeah,
true. You've got to win. You've got to win everything.
I hope they win Europe. I'm rooting for Saracens so hard to win Europe.
It would be amazing. I don't think they can. I think
it would be the greatest achievement.
I think they can do it.
I think it would be their greatest achievement if they manage that.
Yeah, it's up
they
there,
are
isn't
hamstrung compared to those French and Irish teams.
Yes. Yeah. The Leinster resources are
I've got points
amazing.
difference here. Northampton are plus 125. Gloucester are plus 140. Ignore me because
You're on what's it called?
I'm
Rugby,
on
aren't you?
Ultimate Rugby. Forget it. Forget it.
Why do you do it every week?
Forget it.
I'll wait and see on the teams. If it's anywhere near full strength, I'll say Saracens will sneak it. But I think you're right. The Gloucester will go full bore. Saracens may change quite a few.
Yes. Yeah. So it could be, when you see the teams, it could be a home win.
Yeah.
Saturday, we've got Falcons host Tigers. And Tigers, who have won 2 from 2 in Europe as well. So they'll be wanting to go for it. And
tricky one for...
That is a tricky one because
for Leicester.
Newcastle is a tough place to go. But Leicester need to win these games.
They do, and particularly after the Sale thing, much as Gloucester had to win after being humbled by Leicester, Leicester being humbled by Sale have got to bounce back.
Mm. Oh, and you mentioned the other week when I said that Wiggy might get his boots on, you thought they'd be signing another player. They announced it yesterday? Or Wollstonecroft, from Wasps, has signed as a backup scrum half.
There you go.
Yeah, so it takes one extra injury for
Wiggy to get his boots on. You always knew Richard Wilkes would have his...
exactly.
He'd be working at it. He said hello, actually, when I saw him last week.
Oh, did he?
He said hello.
When did you see him?
I saw him at Tigers last weekend. Tigers Gloucester.
Oh, so whilst we're on it, I was drinking with another rugby luminary this week. Different one.
Okay.
At the Gloucester game?
No.
Steve Diamond?
Manchester.
Ooh.
Not a player, but a very, very well-known, very well-respected journalist and podcaster.
Charlie Morgan?
Similar sort of level.
Stephen Jones?
No, not Stephen Jones.
Alan Dimmock?
No, but I haven't seen him for a little while, actually.
Alex, what's his face? Alex Lowe.
Nope. It is
Stuart Barnes.
Chris Jones from the BBC.
Oh, nice.
He's awesome. So we had a few beers at a friend's wedding, and a thoroughly good bloke.
Awesome.
Yeah, loves to chat rugby, which is unsurprising.
Yeah. He does love rugby.
He had to sit and wait for Ian Robertson to retire for so long.
Was it Ian Robertson that did was he at Twickenham with us?
Who's that?
Ian Robertson.
Yeah. Did someone...
The commentator.
The Scottish former international...
Yeah, so we did our podcast, didn't we? And
yes, he did. He was a guest. He got interviewed, yeah.
So I didn't see this bit, right? But apparently in the Q&A afterwards, somebody said...
He was very funny.
What... Do you think it's time for Stuart Barnes to hang up his mic or something? Or why is Stuart Barnes so bad? And cold as he liked, said, I think Stuart's brilliant. And that was it. Shot him down cold. I wish I was there. So I completely disagree, and here are some of the reasons. But yeah, I think we'd have gone by then.
So what are we saying, Falcons or Tigers?
I think Falcons may sneak it.
I tend to agree. I think they will. So against Tigers.
With Leicester having a lot of injuries. If Visa or Montoya are back, then maybe. But
Sorry,
those two being out are like the two players you would not want to be missing.
Sorry, I am very confused here. What are we previewing? Europe?
Next
No.
weekend's games.
Oh, is it next weekend then Europe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Europe, right, okay. Oh, I thought Gloucester had Saracens in Europe. They don't.
No.
Okay, fine.
Falcons, Leicester. I think with Leicester's injuries, if Montoya and Visa are back, Leicester, if they're still without those guys and have more injuries loaded on top from the weekend just gone, I think Falcons might sneak it at home.
Yeah, give me Falcons as it currently
Give me
stands.
Tigers.
Then we've got the 4:30 kickoff. So that's a 2 o'clock kickoff, Falcons.
Yeah, I
Tigers.
think that must mean, because I'm working on the Newcastle game, I think that must mean that BT Sport have got a double header there on Saturday,
Nice.
potentially.
Double money,
Because
Tim.
it's
Yes.
2 and 4:30. No. I can't be in two places at
You
once.
can't get from Newcastle to Exeter.
In
Depends
15
how much I
minutes.
pay him. You'll be surprised.
So yeah, Chiefs then host Saints. So Chiefs who were humbled by Saracens and Saints who humbled Harlequins. Give me Exeter at home.
Exeter at home.
And then on the Sunday, 2 games on the Sunday, both 3 o'clock kickoffs. Quins host Sale.
Sale.
I think Sale.
Sale smash them.
Good game for Sale.
I think so. Marcus Smith, anywhere near coming back?
I've not heard or anything, but when he got injured, it was he'll be fit in the new year, and we are now evidently in the new year.
Good to go, I'd imagine.
Oh, one thing, the Sam James post-match interview, the gag he made was
it Sam James who made the gag?
yeah, it was awful.
What did he say?
Who was it? Was it Sarah? Anyway, he got asked. I think it was Sarah. Got asked, "Are you doing anything special to see in the new year?" And he said, "I'm not going to be using spray-on deodorants." And she kind of looked at him, and he said, "Roll on 2023."
Ooh.
Oh my god! The only thing, the most charitable interpretation of this is he's lost some horrific bet.
Yeah,
and that has to do the
that
worst.
has to be the reason.
Look, I'm not a big fan of the concussion campaigners, but maybe this is the one that swings it for me.
Wow.
So I'm saying Sale.
Yeah, I'm saying Sale.
At the Stoop. And then
Yeah, go on.
London Irish
Yeah.
Bristol is the last one. London
London
Irish.
Irish, please.
Irish.
Paddy.
Yeah.
Irish.
We've been asked to apologise, Tim,
4.
for saying that the concussion campaigners are projecting childhood trauma.
I said that may well be the case. That was me.
Well, they asked me to apologise, and I didn't, obviously. Perfectly reasonable thing to say.
Well, that's not actually. That's a mischaracterization of what was said. Actually, I'm not saying concussion. What?
Not all of them.
No. What was that? What I
Majority
actually,
of them.
in terms of projection, it had nothing to do with concussion. Actually, what I actually said was quite often the people that dislike very masculine men, and like the masculine side of rugby, actually have an issue with that type of character, and quite often that's a projection of some trauma in their life or some insecurity that they have. I didn't mention concussion in that.
All right. Well, anyway, I had a discussion with a friend of mine about this, about masculine traits and people that find it, basically what you said then, but I'll save it for the Patreon podcast.
Oh, interesting.
What a tease.
Any other business? What have you been reading, Phil?
I'm currently reading Devil in the White City, which is a novel set in real life Chicago 1883 and the World Fair, and it's really interesting. There's a lot of kind of construction and architecture side of it, which piques my interest. There's a lot of like American history, which piques my interest. Good book, actually. It took me a little while to get into it, but I'm enjoying it. I would recommend.
Anything from you, JB?
Couple of things. So, the first thing I've listened to in detail, I didn't know any of this stuff, is I've listened to Jocko Willink's 6-part podcast series with a guy called J.D. Baker on the American Civil War, and it's absolutely gripping. It's probably partly the way that they tell it, but the whole thing is gripping, and it's a weird one because
That sounds like a bit of a Dan Carlin type thing.
it's not bad, you know.
Is it Jocko going towards the sort of Dan Carlin kind of thing?
He's done loads of things like this before,
Yeah.
so just as and when it takes his fancy. So
Interesting.
they spent a week in San Diego doing the first 6 parts, and they've got to, I think they've got 3 more years to go. So there'll be another 6 podcasts coming out on the Civil War soon.
That sounds cool.
But it's really cool. But because they talk about it in terms of commanders and military strategy and you find yourself initially sort of rooting for the Confederacy because they're so much more competent than the idiots from up north.
Their military strategy is much better, but they're massively under-resourced, aren't they?
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Well, so the interesting flip comes with the attrition for both sides. So the attrition on the Confederate side meant people like Stonewall Jackson started dying, and they didn't have adequate replacements. Whereas the attrition on the Union side, when they start getting good and you start rooting for them, is when all of the pompous, like politically motivated generals start getting relieved by, what's his name, the president at the time, who was just, I can't remember his name now.
Sorry, say again. The what?
Who was president during the American Civil War? Abraham Lincoln?
He
made that up? Anyway, so he starts just
he
relieving.
did the proclamation emancipation thing straight afterwards the Civil War.
So he just starts relieving these absolutely pompous generals. But here's the best thing which I've learned from the whole thing. Prostitutes, known as hookers. Why are they known as hookers?
It can't and won't be a rugby relationship, but I don't know.
Hookers was General Hooker, who had a bunch of women who took with him to war, and the privates would be sitting around and going, "Who are those women?" And it started with saying, "Oh, they're General Hookers," and then abbreviated it, they'd just be "they're hookers." So these prostitutes were basically campaigning with General Hooker, and therefore it became hookers.
So wait, they were actually prostitutes, or they're just women who got referred to as.
He had a lot of women around him, so
like
I don't think they were all his wife. Yeah. So,
interesting.
Yep. So that's that. But there's some fascinating tales.
That sounds really good. I've been trying to read it. The only thing I've been reading about, and I'm just curious about, is have you ever heard of entanglement theory, the quantum entanglement?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost blowing up everything we thought we knew about physics. It's to some degrees. It's just bonkers.
It does fit in with theory of relativity, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's like you can have particles that are separated by massive distances that are completely connected.
Yeah.
And so there's some sort of energy field or some connect. I don't know how, but it's bonkers when you read it. It's like, whoa! It's like sci-fi movie stuff.
It is bizarre.
So I've read a couple of books on. I've read a few books on physics and a couple on quantum physics, and like how the laws of relativity break down when you move to quantum level.
Exactly.
And my read, and this is not what the books are saying, but my read of it is it's all to do with a measurement problem. Anything that is really weird things where things break down at that kind of level is the fact that in order to measure subatomic particles, you are disrupting them in the process of measuring it. Like the phrase, to study a butterfly, you've got to put a pin in it. You're destroying the butterfly in order to look at it. You're destroying the nature of the particle in order to observe it. Therefore, until we've got a better way of observation, which we may never get, you will never truly understand what is happening at that subatomic level. Now, that's my totally naive interpretation.
No. And it's a fair one, but it's just it's also what it kind of opens up is the possibility that there are. Well, it just makes you feel humble and small with how much we don't know.
Yes.
And for example,
that is definitely.
I feel the same way about lineouts.
For example, what we can see.
You made Ed feel like that.
For example, for what we can see, I'm looking at you two, and what I'm seeing, what my eyes are perceiving, is a tiny fraction of what is here in this space.
Yeah, the dark matter.
All of that.
Type.
All of that has been boggling my mind. I've been loving it. Nice Christmas and New Year reading.
I do kind of like reading about that. I need like the really dumbed down stuff, but I quite like reading about it.
So I don't often
for dummies.
I don't often read. It's not really my thing. I listen a lot, but I don't often read. Right. So I was listening to a podcast this week, and they had a book review of. Have you ever heard of Cormac McCarthy?
No. Don't think so.
No, I'd never heard of him either, but they were raving about this guy, like one of the best writers of his generation, yada yada. I was like, I don't know who he is. But he actually, when I was looking at it, he's actually written No Country for Old Men and The Road.
Okay.
He's got he's got a new book out. So I think I'm going to actually attempt to read, actually physically read a book. The last time I physically read a book was River Deep, which is something like, I think it might be as big as 2,000 pages long. And that is epic. It is an epic book. And so I have no idea what this book is about. I'm just going to read it.
Cool. Nice.
I do like reading, as in, I like having a physical book and the process of reading. There's something like audiobooks, I kind of almost consume them too fast and they like wash over me a bit too much.
Like Lex Friedman. Just books too fast.
Oh, I listened to. Well, I haven't got through the CoffeeZilla one, but
CoffeeZilla one's good, isn't it?
It's interesting.
Yeah. There's going to be some interesting CoffeeZilla stuff with is it Logan
Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. Right, you teased something for the Patreon podcast. I can't remember what it was, but we will find out shortly when we record it. If you want to support us, that's one way you can. If you want more content, patreon.com/EggChasers. You make the podcast possible. Thank you very much for that, as you do if you just listen and hit subscribe and let the boys play.
Yeah, boys play.